Yeah, I'm extremely happy with how it all came together and turned out.
Yeah.
See, I love it when we start nice and in media res. That was Mark Russell Braun talking about being happy about seeing the proofs to this here book that they wrote called The Forgotten Divine, which is about to go up on Kickstarter. Those few of you who listen to all 22 panels have already heard Tom Pyre and Stuart Moore sing its praises. Um, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guests tonight are returning for who knows how many times now, Mark Russell and and for the first time, Russell Braun. And yeah, they are two different people. It's not Mark Russell Braun the way I initially introduced them, though I think that would be a cool way to put it across the top. Mark Russell Braun presents.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably save Ahoy some money too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, little less printing, little less ink. Yeah. Um,
Okay. There we
Mark, is
go
this the
now.
first time you've worked with a Russell?
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've ever encountered another Russell in the wild.
All
Where,
right.
um,
All right.
Me too. Yeah. But
So there we go. The book is the Forgotten Divine. The Kickstarter will start up soon. This is where I'll remind everybody, as I did when I talked to Tom and Stuart, that you go and you hit that button that says notify me. And the more people hit notify me, the quicker the people decide, okay, it's time to roll. Um,
yeah, you don't even have to actually get the comic. Just click on the notify me, and then you at least get the updates.
right. Well, and I totally encourage you, once you've been notified, then click the I want this, take my money button.
Yeah, that's always my preference.
Which I mean, seriously, okay, I have to announce this is good news. Relating or reporting that Trump has announced a 2 week ceasefire with Iran. No word on whether Iran has said anything about that, but it's still
It's good
better than
news,
raining
but
down
at the same
hellfire right
time,
now.
I just want this TV show to end. I'm sick of all the. It's like reading a bad comic series that ends on a cliffhanger every issue,
Right,
and then the next issue is just as idiotic as the last one, but then it ends on another cliffhanger, so you feel like
right.
you keep reading. It's like being trapped in a something like that.
It's like the horrible version of the Commandy Challenge, but the Commandy Challenge was awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, it just feels like the it's almost like he's an alien who feeds off of the anxiety of others, and it's like an anxiety vampire, and I'm just over it. I wish it would end.
Well, though you seem to have your next comic there, an anxiety vampire.
The anxiety
That feels
vampire.
like
That's
a Mark
exactly what it
Russell
would be
book.
about.
But
I
back
wasn't
to
happy unless everybody was like living in constant terror.
but back to push button give money, which I think Kickstarter should rename the button that. It should just say give money button. Uh,
No muss, no fuss. Clear.
exactly. Um somebody and again I got the editorial pitch, but it's always fun to get the creative pitch. Pitch me uh
The Forgotten
here I
Divine.
got yes, that
Okay.
Forgotten
Uh,
Divine.
well, it's about a cult, and if that's not enough, I mean, I'm fascinated by cults. So, I mean, for me, that's when I'd be hitting the give money button. But it's about a cult that arises when this guy, this homeless vet who's suffering from PTSD, starts having visions of an alien world. And at first, he thinks it's a byproduct of his PTSD, but then other people start having the visions, and they're the same visions, and they realize that there's something else going on here. So they form a group together that ultimately becomes known as the Forgotten Divine. And for them, internally, it's like a support network. These are people that are trying to get to the bottom of a mystery that they're all experiencing and that no one else can understand, because to everyone else outside, it looks like a cult. It looks like these people are crazy. And so it's about this reality, or this divergent reality, where to the people inside, this is real. and we are here to support each other. But to people outside, this is a dangerous cult that we don't understand, that is starting to, you know, come together and like take over a compound, and we don't know what to do with this. So it's kind of about how a cult looks both from the outside, for people outside looking in, and from a cult from the inside out, what it means to the people who are in it. And I tried to like make it not like you know, a morality play, or you know, an object lesson, but more like just about how people in getting what they need for their lives are trying to understand what's happening to them internally, puts them at cross odds with other people who don't need that same thing.
You have a special talent for taking things that like are easily turned into morality plays and not making them amoral, but making them funny and more of think pieces than strictly morality plays.
Well, thank you.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's more about the psychology of people like trying to get what they need from life and trying to figure out what's happening, you know, to their own reality, than it is like some sort of like just sort of blanket condemnation of cults or anything like that.
Russ, just because I love Mark's work, one of my favorite questions to ask the artists that he works with when I'm lucky enough to talk to them is again his stories are I don't even know how to describe Mark Russell anymore. He does everything really, really well, but always makes you think, what's it like to get a Mark Russell script? When you got this pitch, what I mean, did you go, okay, how much money? Or did you go, oh my God, I must draw this?
Yeah,
Or a
a
little
little
bit
of
of
both.
each?
Because, well, when it becomes funny to do it, no, it was definitely I must draw this. I honestly, I was at a point where I was looking for something uh, really engaging, and I'd been getting a couple of scripts from different people and different pitches from people that were just. It's like doing this job is not easy. You have to dedicate yourself to it, and I'm real method about my comics. It's like I have to be 100% in it, or I can't do it, and I
I was
can't
about to
like.
say method on a Mark Russell comic seems a little dangerous. Did you go
Well,
join
yeah,
a
I mean, I'm
cult?
trying to shave the beard, so but no, it was just such a really well put together script, real great concept. It gave me a lot of room to have fun, and yet everything was there. I'm used to working with a lot of really great writers, and I've worked with Garth Ennis for years, and the scripts that I get from him are always just perfect. I know exactly what he wants, and it's like my job to get inside the script and know that I'm delivering what is necessary. And it was just as easy to do that with the script and identify with it right away, and had just a lot of fun.
That's right. See, I always think of Derek Robinson on The Boys. Were you on it from the
I
beginning?
I came on the boys about a third of the way through issue
Okay.
44, and pretty much just stayed. So uh,
Yeah, no, I knew you'd been there towards the end, but
yeah,
I read The Boys when it was coming out, and I think I've done one reread, and I love The Boys, but I also sometimes find Boys well, it's similar to some of Mark Russell's stuff. Only the laughs are more like laugh out loud, but then go, oh my God, why am I laughing at that? And the other stuff is more, oh my God, I don't want to think about this.
yeah,
This is what Garth Ennis does really well. What Mark Russell does really well is sucks you in and makes you want to think about it.
exactly,
And
yeah.
then you start laughing at it, and then you go, wait a minute, am I laughing at this? And then you go, no, okay, it's okay that I'm laughing at this. It's a, it's a, if you don't laugh, you'll scream type of laugh.
Well, yeah, the humor in Forgotten Divine is not as overt as a lot of Mark's stuff. It's in there, and I
Oh, I'm
enjoyed
certain of it.
the humor.
I mean, like, uh, the first 7 pages, it reminds me a lot of Traveling to Mars, which I think is Mark's masterpiece. So the fact that he's doing another story like that where the humor is there, but it's also a let's like really look at this, like immediately excited me. Um, so uh just in the first few pages that I read, um I was immediately struck by um and this is another question I have for Russ. Like the mundanity. I don't know if that's actually a word, but I mean, we've got a broken down strip mall and a stripped down office is where we, but they're beautifully rendered. There's uh, looking for the right word.
Yeah, one of
Put
the
together.
things. Oh, right. I'll butt in, but one of the things I really wanted from this, and which I thought Russ would be great at, and I was right about that, was combining what you say, the mundanity, the just the sort of the dingy everydayness of life, with the fantastic surreal nature of these visions. And I
Right.
think it's really the contrast of those that kind of like show you why these people choose the
Oh,
Forgotten Divine.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like this
Yeah.
magical kingdom that within the mansion of their own mind that it's impossible for them to explain to anyone else.
Z-
Right. There had
z-
to be a real dichotomy. You had to make sure that the real life stuff was believable and gritty, and then when you saw some of the fantastic stuff, that it felt like there was a real suspension of disbelief, and you could actually get into it that way. So, and then you're kind of part of the character too. You're in there with the main character, trying to decide what is this stuff? What is this vision? Is it in my head? Is it reality? Is it on its way here? Is it just being made up? So, yeah, well, I appreciate that because that's like again part of getting into the story was knowing when to pull back. There's a lot of stuff that you want to make super exciting on every page, but if you do that, then you lose the impact of the page turn when now the aliens show up. It's like,
right.
let me make this
Well, and
as boring as possible, but make sure that we know what's going on with this
uh, as, as I listened to
environment.
you talk and as I was looking at the pages again, the artist I want to compare you to in terms of the background stuff is I think David Lapham is the artist that I think of in terms of being able to take just that very mundane
Sure.
scene and breathe a life into it. So you were talking about being very method. How do you like how I mean is because I mean just having talked to artists, I know that like the more fun the page, the more fun they have doing it, though sometimes they also like hate it for how much work it is. Um but like the boring pages, like sometimes they have to find a way to like how do I make this interesting to me? It's where you find tons of gags and stuff and like that's one of the things that actually caught my attention. There's not any clear, oh, let's cheat and have fun with this sticker here or this thing there. In fact, like we have empty picture frames, and I think they're supposed to be empty.
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be picture frames with stuff in them later on, but yeah, it was like let's keep this office as absolutely mundane as possible, and this we won't give away too much story in this, but he's at a psychiatrist's office. We've seen that in the first two
Right.
pages they released, and
Though, as somebody who loves my psychiatrist and that sort of thing, I'm going to say we're going to use the term psychiatrist loosely for this guy.
sure, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I think he would be
yeah,
legally required to correct you that he's not a licensed psychiatrist, but that he like a
He
professional
plays
therapist.
one in a comic book.
He
yeah,
has been
it's
hired
more
by the VA to function as a therapist.
right,
Right.
right. So yeah, although is he prescribing drugs though? Because Rodney is on drugs,
Yeah,
but
no, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe he is. Someone's
So
prescribing those drugs.
yeah. So yeah, being method, I'm on all those drugs too now. So no, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
that's the sort of that's the sort of dedication I demand.
No, as far as like the method stuff goes, it's more about the acting. Like it's trying to be like I try to make sure that the acting is authentic and that
Yeah.
the characters are not just well, also not just different versions of me. You know, I try to make sure I can get into like
Wait
their
a minute.
process.
You're not Sean Phillips? And I
No.
love Sean Phillips. I say that lovingly. I only say that because Jacob said it when he was on. When I was giving Jacob praise, he's like, "Well, I can draw people that aren't versions of myself."
Uh-huh. Oh well. Almost everyone you
So
draw is a
Sean, please, I said that lovingly. You're allowed to come on 22 panels still.
but no, as far as like the emotions of it, you know, it's
Yeah.
not just just trying to make sure I'm getting the idea across before we even have the dialogue in there, you know. So
Well, and like I mean, I'm flipping. You kill it. I mean, I think one of the reasons I went straight to the backgrounds was A, just like it was striking how good they were in their simplicity, but B, because you kill it with the acting. That's an easy thing to get to. I mean, I love the slouch. I love the weight. Okay, I'm gonna give away part of page one. One of them is eating a corn dog, and I've never actually found eating a corn dog done so interestingly and to great effect.
Yeah,
well, Mark, that's
Um,
the corn
I
dogs are
don't know
important.
why, but the corn dogs seem to work their way into like a lot of my stories. I think maybe just because it's a great sort of frivolous thing to have a character doing that's easy to draw.
And
okay, Mark is not the artist. Is it easy to draw, Russ?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Although I'm not sure I got the stick portion exactly right. But yeah, because it's funny
Close
because since
enough.
I've drawn that, I've had a corn dog, and I realized I may have put too much stick on that corn dog. So the things you have to realize
Well, I mean,
exactly.
they're different
It's a
brands.
regional variation.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
different brands.
I live in Portland, and the corn dog is actually a Portland creation. It was originated
Yeah.
here, so
Okay.
it's a certain amount of there's a certain
It's
amount of
them
regional
that we should
pride
blame.
that goes into
Yeah.
the corn dog.
But yeah, no, I have him kind of eating it pretty quickly, and at one point there's a little butt end of the corn dog left, and like probably too much stick sticking up through it, like he'd choke himself if he was trying to eat
He's
that.
like a
But
guy that would barrel through a corn dog, I think, though.
yeah, yeah, two bites was probably all Doc needed for
Yeah.
that. So, and Doc is one of my favorite characters in the book too. I just love Doc. So,
No,
yeah,
he definitely. I mean, I mean, to make me attached to, and he does say even, I mean, after the malpractice suit. So like, he's honest about not being a good
Yeah, he's kind of,
therapist.
I think even by his standards, he would call himself a loser. But
Right.
at the same time, he is, sort of, he's a loser. I think you'd much rather want to be around than most people who would consider themselves winners, because he's honest, self-effacing, and he genuinely does sort of care about other people.
yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. I sometimes it's bad when I start looking at the art while we're talking because I'll like fall into.
But it's tougher. It's so much. I don't want to give away too much too.
No,
So
no,
Yeah,
and we don't want to give away too much.
trying to tread
Um,
that line. Yes.
put a light on so I can see, so you guys can see me.
I thought this whole thing was for effect.
Getting, but now I'll
That's just,
silhouetted it, but wasn't
um,
prepared. Camera.
what what was the most? I mean, we'll go to early stuff, and then we'll try to come up with questions away from the book. What was the most fun? Um, I mean, without giving anything away, what the the twofold question that I like to ask. Russ, again, try not to give away like anything significant, but there's almost always like a scene or whatnot that an artist will get that just goes, "Oh, I love this. Let's go," and then let's turn it around afterwards to Mark. What did you get back and go, "Oh my God, that is so much better than I wrote it."
Well, I think for me, it'd have to be some of the alien stuff. I like the way we work back and forth on it. Mark gave me a pretty specific idea of what he wanted and gave me room to kind of grow with it. And then just giving sketches back and forth. It wasn't even a particular scene. It was just kind of when we landed on the main alien look. And yeah, and that's not giving anything away.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to answer it. It's definitely as much as I love the acting and the character stuff, it's having that kind of exceptional stuff to get to that was the fun for me. So the big fun. Mark?
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, there's a few of those moments where I thought, wow, this is like really something I can't wait for people to see. And I don't, but it's hard to talk about them without giving stuff away because one of those things is the very last page of the story, which for me is like one of the best pages I've ever seen associated with my work. But I obviously can't talk about that without giving it away. But
What?
there's also just this, much more. It's a much less plot heavy or much less of like a splash page reveal type moment, but I just loved it. And it was like when they have their first convention at a hotel, it was like a Best Western or something like that. And they're just having a blast, jumping in the pool and hanging out at the bar. And I just thought this is like probably the high point in any sort of cult. You get like the Best Western and you're talking about your beliefs. And I remember seeing a documentary about Heaven's Gate and the cult that believed in the UFO that was coming, which is sort of partially, inspired the Forgotten Divine. But I remember watching the documentary, and they had a similar sort of experience where they rented out like a hotel on like the Oregon coast, and the hotel is probably used to hosting their like coin collectors or stamp collectors in their convention center, but they hosted this cult, and it just seemed like they just loved being there. Like they felt like this is the moment at which we've achieved mainstream success, and they had people who had nothing to do with the cult that were coming to the convention just to see what it was about. And it struck me as like, yeah, that was probably their high point because they were interacting with people outside the cult, and everyone seemed to be having a good time, and people were going to the buffet and the swimming pool, and it all seemed downhill from there.
And probably, yeah, in our story too, it is kind of the high point for
Yes,
the guy.
if the credits had rolled there, you would think this is a happy story.
Wait a minute. A Mark Russell story that doesn't have a happy ending?
Now you
I'm
would have thought,
out.
where can I join a cult?
Um, Talk to me about the working process with each other, since it sounds like you were able to work really collaboratively
Well, one
from.
of the advantages of doing, this through a Kickstarter, through, not trying to hit a deadline and be part of a series, is that we had a long time to sort of work together. So, no one was too sweated on deadlines or, got to get this done. So it was much more leisurely. And Russ would send me pages, and I would sort of like talk about them, or I would say, I think the tonality of this scene needs to go a little more this way. And then he had no problem going back and changing things, or just like going forward changing them. So I think that the sort of leisurely pace at which we made this comic allowed us both to feel like we could actually step back from our own work, look at it a little critically, and and change things.
Yeah. No, I had like I wouldn't say an initial false start, but it was hard for me to get rolling with it, and I had a lot of stuff going on. And again, because there were no deadlines, artists without a deadline, it's a tough thing. You kind of like oh well, I'll take my time to get it just the way I want it and make it perfect, and then you put more pressure on yourself. So, but again, when we did communicate back and forth, it was really easy, and I do pretty tight roughs. Like that's my breakdowns are kind of my pencils in a way, and then I just go
Right.
to a finished page after that. So when I could send breakdowns to Mark and he could see, it's not just like a stick figure. It's like he can see what the acting is going to be, what the scene is going to look like, where the establishing shots are. And so when he could give me a comment on that, I could make a slight tweak or a big tweak and go right to the finish from there. So that was a pleasure to do, you know.
How long have you been working on it?
I think a year and a half, about.
Yeah,
Wow.
I finished the script for this about 2 years ago, so yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
about right.
So
That's
yeah, fits and starts, and then finally, kind of like I said, when he got into it and the ball started rolling, it was just like, ah, here we go, here we go, and you got the momentum, and then I got really into it and wrapped it up. So yeah, yeah. So it was a really interesting evolution, and it kind of mirrors the story. It kind of mirrors the book because you go from in 64 pages, you get the full evolution of a character from having a dream to having a cult and beyond. So that's kind of the way it was built too. So one little
oh,
bit at a time.
that's tight. 64 pages.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
weird size for a story, but the
that
good
I mean,
thing,
that actually like makes me more excited just
yeah, no,
because like you said, it's a weird size for a story. So like I can't imagine you'd choose 64 unless it was like, no, that this is the right
yeah.
length.
Well, this is like what like one of the benefits of doing it this way was that it's like we had the rare luxury in the comics world of deciding the length based upon the story, not the other way around.
Right.
It's like we just figured out how long the story needed to be, and then that became the pages,
Right.
which is almost unheard of in comics. But I think it
Yeah.
really shows because it's
I mean,
not
it's happening a little
exactly,
bit more in like the publishing world side of graphic novels
yeah,
because they
and
don't know what they're doing.
yeah, and I think that I've done a few of these stories with Ahoy now that are weird lengths, like 48 pages or 50
Right.
pages. And the benefit is that you get exactly as much story as you need. You don't
Right.
like, well, this went on for a few pages too long, or oh, they obviously cut out like a back plot here, or they cut this short. It's exactly as long as it needs to be, which is great. And also, it allows, it's not like completely wasted because you write enough of these things, you can put them together in an omnibus.
Absolutely. But I also like I've never understood the the let's not make comics the size that they should be. I mean, I kind of get the, oh, you have to work in fours because of the way paper works. And it's like,
Yeah,
yes, but
that's
you
the
know
only
that you
right.
can put things other than comic pages on a page, right?
Sure.
Books have empty pages all the time because books also have to work in fours. But nobody ever told Terry Pratchett, I'm sorry,
Right.
you have a 217 page book. We need
Yeah.
3 more pages, or you need to.
Imagine you were making a movie and somebody said this needs to be exactly 1 hour and 37 minutes long, not one
Right,
minute more, not 1 minute less. Imagine
right.
how it would kind of warp the storytelling of the movie,
Yeah,
as opposed to just like, well, these are the scenes that have to be there, and we cut out the ones that didn't. And that's kind of the way I now prefer to make comics whenever I can.
right.
And I think it's a better experience for the reader. And I understand why you would want to do 20 page, 22 page increments if you're doing an ongoing. If you're doing like
Yeah.
a series
I mean,
that go on
yeah,
forever, so let's cut it in these little bite-sized portions that'll cost the same every month. But if you're not doing that, then why not write a
right.
comic that's got a freaky length?
Well, and as you and I have talked about before, like I still think the future of comics is not single issues. I keep sharing with people your comic store idea of overbuy issue one and only subscriptions for any other issues.
Yeah,
You,
and
you know,
I think that a big problem in the comics industry is like all the waste that goes into printing issues and putting on shelves that no one will ever buy.
right.
And so it's like all these issue threes, issue fours get pulped and remaindered because everybody who loved issue one is now waiting for the trade, and everybody who hated issue one is no longer, buying your title. So I guess my plan is to sell the whole thing to people before they realize they hate it.
Well, and this one is, I mean, they're going prestige with us too. It's a hardcover, one-shot graphic novel. So,
Yeah.
and we got to give a lot of credit to Ahoy too. They're just the greatest company to work for.
Oh, they're
Great,
they're fantastic.
They
everything they
are,
put out.
one of the few companies that is like honestly asking themselves, how can, not like how can we make this cheaper, but how can we make this better?
Yeah,
I remember when I was doing Second Coming with them for the first volume, realizing that this was very different than the comic experience. Not to throw anyone else under the bus, but it was a very different experience because their first thought was, well, do you need any extra pages, or what if we brought in a different artist so that you could have one artist, you could have Richard Pace do the scenes that are set on heaven or in the ancient past, and then you can have someone else do the scenes that are in the present, and it will give your comic a very different look. It will tell people like visually, where this part of the story is taking place, which was just incredibly important because it's a story that jumps around a lot between time periods. And it would be hard to convince any other publisher to do that. But to
Well,
them,
I don't know. DC
their
did
idea.
that for Tom King on Strange Adventures right after you'd done it with. I mean, so you paved the way, Mark.
Oh, that's
yeah.
I prefer to think that way. I doubt that's the case, but I'll
No,
but I'll
you
take
paved the way.
yes.
They saw it work on the book that they let go. And they're
Right.
like,
The DC was not thinking too much about Second Coming after that point. I think that they were glad to see it go.
I mean,
No,
they
DC really. I mean, I will say to this day, like uh, to me, the surprise with DC was not that they asked me to take Second Coming to somewhere else. The surprise was that they approved it in the first place because
yeah.
it seemed like a real edgy, kind of daring concept to be, at DC, be at any big two or superhero publisher. This thing is only tangentially connected to superheroes. It's more about, religion and faith, and it's like, so I have to give them a lot of credit for ever greenlighting Second Coming in the first place.
Well, I mean, when it came up with Tom and Stewart, what I said is my unofficial theory that I didn't expect them to be able to confirm or deny was that DC had approved it as a favor to the guy that brought them the Flintstones because that would get him the publicity when they let it go somewhere else, and they didn't specifically say yes or no on that, but they did say that DC was much more what's the word I'm looking for? Easy to work with in terms of getting the rights transferred than you would
Yeah, no, I will tell
necessarily
you,
expect.
yeah, because there was new owner or not new owners, there was new ownership, but more
Right.
importantly, the ownership, there was a new president at DC, and it was right around the time that the Batwing thing happened, where they accidentally showed Batman's dick in like
Yeah.
a Batman comic, and that like was a stage four fire. That was a four-alarm fire at DC. Like people were getting fired, people were in deep trouble because of that, and so nobody wanted to be the next Batwing. And I
See,
think,
like I'm shocked that people got fired because I still don't think that was an accident.
oh no, I mean the accident was that probably they shaded it too late, or they didn't darken it enough. But
No, I mean,
you don't draw
they
Bruce Wayne
completely
naked on
sold out
accident.
a massive print run,
Yeah.
got huge amounts of free publicity, and it was already enough in the dark that managing to shade it for the digital version was not difficult.
I think it was what it was a fault line where the old DC, the DC I sort of came up in, where I was doing the Hanna-Barbera stuff, was very laissez-faire. It was very much into pushing the boundaries and doing kind of stories like that. And then at some point, the leadership changed. I think when Pam became president over there, and it became much more conservative. Became much more about like selling pajamas and about the toys and games and stuff.
I
And
would
then
think that Batwang would sell lots of pajamas. You
yeah,
need
they
one
could
for your comic book.
you could have it like a twister, a twister edition. No, but I think that was would the moment people realized this is not this we're not playing this by the same rules anymore, and so it created this atmosphere where nobody wanted to get called to the principal's office, like the people
Now,
who did the Naked Batman comic did, and
I do
and
have
I
a
would have been the
question.
thing that would have gotten them called to the principal's office, or at least Second Coming would.
Right, right. I do have a question for both of you regarding the Batwing. Um, somehow,
I'm a Batwing expert, so you're in the
there we go.
right place.
Somehow, I don't think there's any book that I've seen more graded copies of than Batman Damned #1. But the entire reason that it's of any value is because of the Batwang. And when you grade it, you encase it in plastic and can no longer see the Batwang. So why on earth is it actually more valuable as a graded edition?
That's the totem economy, right? It's like, there's on Easter Island, there are families that own these enormous monoliths that of rock, but they're on the bottom of the sea. It's like they fell out of a canoe or whatever, but you still own that. It's almost like the ancient version of NFT. It's like nobody can access that rock. Nobody can even prove it exists, but we know through tradition that you had this enormous monolith of stone, which we all value, and it fell out of your canoe and sank to the bottom of the sea. So you can sell that to somebody else or use it as a unit of currency, even though nobody could ever touch this giant stone monolith, because it still has the mental and emotional currency of the respect of the people who are transacting with you.
The non-fungible totem.
Yes, that's perfect. Russ, take a
I
bow.
mean, I have always had difficulty like truly understanding the speculative collectible side of comics to begin with, but like there is nothing that I understand less than a graded copy of Batman Damned #1. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, from a collector's market, it makes sense. From a reader's market, it just seems wacky.
Well, none of them make sense from a reader's market.
Then it never makes sense to me because I'm just a reader,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like me.
None of
It's
them
like,
make sense from a reader's market. You
But
know.
I have comics that would be worth thousands that have been read so many times and they're so dog-eared.
Exactly.
I couldn't sell it to the most, rabid fan. But that's because
I mean, you'd be surprised.
well,
that's
yeah,
the only reason why these, early edition action comics and whatnot are collectible because
Right.
because everyone who read them loved them. They actually
Right.
wanted to. They would read them again. They would put them under their pillow. They would, trade them with friends, and so they got like
Carry them in their back pocket,
yeah. So they
you
weren't
know.
collectible anymore because they were too
Right.
worn out.
Right.
The few that weren't just sort of loved to death are kind of what created the scarcity that makes them so
Right.
valuable.
I
It's
mean,
like
I mean,
collectors.
there were, I think, close to 3 million copies of Action Comics #1 printed. It was
And
not a low print run comic.
right. It wasn't rarity. It wasn't like like the Warren Harding wearing a birthday hat, like rare sort of thing. It was
Right.
like it was a very common thing, but the number that actually survived in pristine shape is extremely rare because
It's
people
like 8.
enjoyed them because they were sold for readers.
And pristine is a relative term.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah, and
actually,
also, sorry,
the,
no
the
one ever really thought that this stuff was going to be collectible. It was
no,
entertainment.
no, not until like the, I mean, baseball cards and comics in some ways were ruined on one level in the 90s with the first massive speculator boom, where it's like, oh, we must buy 3 copies of this and keep 2 of them in
yeah. By
hermetically
the
sealed packages.
by the time you realize something's collectible, it's no longer collectible
Yeah,
because all the other people you would be selling this to are doing the same thing. They're also hoarding
exactly. No,
copies.
the 2 examples I always use are the Death of Superman and Ken Griffey Jr.'s rookie card. Um,
Yeah.
the Death of Superman, 3 weeks after it came out, if it was sealed in the plastic bag, was going for like $500. That same sealed plastic bag Death of Superman now, you know what the average going price is?
What?
$2,
$10.
Yeah.
$10. Yeah.
If it's sealed in the bag, it's like $10. I think it's got a $4 cover price. It was an expensive comic for when it came out. um,
Well, the fluctuations in the market too. It's like, you do
right,
start thinking every once in a while. It's like I've been doing comics for a long time. I've been collecting them for a long time. Maybe I should sell some of this stuff. And then
right,
it's like
right.
this one was worth $700. It's like now it's worth
But
30.
right, but then the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, the 89 upper deck, like in 1990, it was like a $500 card. When he went into the Hall of Fame, it was like a $40 card
Really?
That was like great
because
inflation.
everybody and their uncle has 10 of them.
Yeah, well, in all the other, I mean, upper deck printed like they're like multiple. They sort of realized that they can make money by ruining the very thing that made it valuable, which was its scarcity, just
Right.
printing more and more of them.
Well, and printing higher quality, so it was easier to keep it in good condition.
Yeah,
Like it's not cardboard. I mean, it's cardboard, but it's not like shoebox cardboard anymore. It's like this high quality, glossy.
yeah. The most valuable baseball card is the like a Honus Wagner, because
Right.
originally they would put them in cigarette packs, and he did not approve of smoking, so he made them stop printing the Honus Wagner, and it's the most valuable
That's the
because
that's the legend. That
okay,
there's a lot of
that's
evidence
true.
that says they didn't pay him enough.
Oh well, for one reason or the other, the
He
reason
pulled his
why
card.
the reason why it's valuable is because there's like this artificial scarcity,
Right.
not because he was the
And
greatest
it's
ball
ancient.
player. Yeah,
There are even less of those known to be in existence than Action Comics number one. I think Action Comics number one, there's like 14 copies known to be in existence, whereas the Honus Wagner, I think it went back down to 7 because there was a big thing with the Honus Wagner. Somebody took their Honus Wagner
oh, I
card,
saw that.
lasered off the edges,
Right, to make
just
it
a
more pristine.
fraction of an inch to make it look. And suddenly there was found in an attic the most pristine Honus Wagner card ever, until it came out that it was just one of the old ones and had been.
Right, they
But
made it
this is
try to
how
make it
crazy
look
they get.
obvious.
It's like, hey, let's take my $1 million artifact and use a laser cutter to make it
Yeah,
look
but it's a
neater.
good example of I think the collector's market is really more it is kind of like inherently a scam. It feels
Yeah,
like it's always kind of like a bubble in waiting, whereas the reader's market, the worst thing that happens is like you just um you just stop loving this thing that you had. It's like the stakes are so much lower, and yet
right.
what you get from it value wise is so much higher.
Yeah.
It seems like a foolish to play any other game, but to just buy something because you love it.
Well, this actually takes me. Mark's gotten to answer this question before, so we're gonna go to Russell for this. Give me your comics biography. And when I say that, I don't mean your bibliography. Anybody can look up the stuff that you've done. Talk to me about like the first comic you remember buying, the
Sure.
comics you loved growing up, the comics that made you go, "Hey, I want to do this." Talk to me about the formative comics in your life.
Sure. Well, I was a kid growing up in Queens in the late 60s, early 70s. So for me, it was cartoons on TV first. It was the Spider-Man cartoon, the Ralph Bakshi 66 cartoon, 67 cartoon. And I'd come home from school, kindergarten and stuff, and watch this in the afternoon. And then my dad showed me that this is, I mean, really early on, that you don't have to just wait for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You can get Spider-Man anytime you want. It's in these comic books. So down to the drugstore, spin through the rack and get the comic books. My first comic, though, was an Iron Man comic that I got the day I went to get my allergy tests done. And this is back in the time when they would do little tiny needles for each one. So I had 50 needles in each arm.
You only got one comic for that day. You should have gotten multiple comics
Well,
for
one
that
comic
day.
and an ice cream soda at the.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
I know now I
mean,
sound
50 needles. That's intense.
and I was wearing a boater, and I sound like this like in the 20s or something like that. But it's Iron Man comic where he fights the Blizzard. So I think it was the first appearance of the Blizzard. It was a great cover, and right after that, so I picked up Spider-Man was my guy. That was my gateway drug. But the Iron Man comics are the ones I remembered right away. The next one was like fighting Happy Hogan turned into the Freak or something like that. And Iron Man ended up with roller skates at the bottom of his boots because he was out of power and he just ended up skating away. It was really odd. So, but yeah, that was my start. Was animation of Spider-Man into comics of Spider-Man and all that great 70s stuff, the Ross Andrew, Green Goblin stuff. And so, yeah, that's what started me up. And I literally said from that point on, this is what I want to do for a living. During off times when I wasn't going to be a baseball player and scientist who wrote my own and drew my own science books, but I was going to do comic books. So that was the plan.
Okay, as Mark can attest, we're definitely the baseball pod or the comics podcast most into baseball. So what team did you want to play for when you were wanting to be a baseball player?
Growing up in Queens, New York, obviously it was the Yankees. It was the Yankees. I liked the Mets too, but it was the Yankees. And honestly, I was never when I was growing up, the Yankees were a pretty crappy team. So they're still my team.
You were in that one era. I was just talking to somebody that was telling, is this your first comic?
No.
No.
No, it was the other one. Probably the one right before that or right after that. I think it was 87. So that's the one. Yeah, with
so the second part of the story. So then you had to go back and find the beginning.
Absolutely, yeah. So
back in that era where it was harder.
Yep. Well, you just have to go deeper through the rack, to the back of the rack.
Yeah.
That was the hunt was the fun, but
yeah. No, I was having a Don at C2E2. So this was another comics thing talking baseball. We were having a Don Mattingly conversation and like I said, like anybody who talks to me about Don Mattingly being their favorite Yankee, I can't get as upset about them being Yankee fans because like to be that great of a ball player and a Yankee and not have a World Series ring is almost impossible.
Yeah. He's one of the good guys. It's kind of like you wanted to root for him. I mean, even people who weren't Yankee fans kind of can root for Don Mattingly. But a lot of people.
I mean, he was on The Simpsons.
Yeah,
with his sideburns.
Because I know how many people hate the Yankees, and I never hated that many other teams until they started hating me. So,
Right.
but yeah, no, Tom Pyre is also a big Yankee fan. So
He
we
is. He is. So is Mark Chiarello.
yeah.
So yeah.
But in that formative time, I was just about the game. I mean, I was a big
Yeah.
fan of the Oakland A's in the early '70s. Obviously,
Oh,
there
those
were
were some good teams.
uh, A's and the Big Red Machine. Uh, just
Yeah.
watching. I could watch any baseball and love it at the time.
That's me. I can watch any baseball and love it.
But my
I,
Oakland A's was like your favorite players you wanted to emulate or whatever. But mine was Joe Rudy, a guy who nobody remembers at all. Just a great athlete.
well, I mean, I can't say I remember Joe Rudy because I think he may have retired before I was born. Um, but I know Joe Rudy.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah. So yeah, baseball was a big part of my life as a kid.
oh
And
no, he didn't retire before I was born. I have seen baseball cards from him, but I think it was from his Angels days.
right, right after that. Mm.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. But yeah, no, I actually love it. That's the other way you can tell that people are um like actual baseball fans when they list players among their favorites that like nobody lists among their favorites.
Sure, sure.
I mean like my favorite baseball player is Greg Maddux, but I can wax poetic about Augie Ojeda and Terry Mulholland and Sean Dunston.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll go back with the obscure Yankees and Fred Chicken Stanley, who's a
Oh, that's one
Philly
that I
player
don't
on the
know,
bench, and
but I have
Fred
baseball
Stanley.
reference up.
And he was the utility guy. He was just, he came in any situation, and
Oh, I
uh,
love utility guys.
yeah, and that's
And
what
a
I
switch
guess I've
hitter.
always given myself that in
Oh,
comics.
only for a couple of years. For a couple of years, in some ways, I think that's even cooler. For 3 seasons, he was primarily a switch hitter, but otherwise a right-handed hitter. And in 14 seasons, managed to be worth almost 2 wins above replacement. That's my kind of guy.
That's cool.
I'm sorry. These are rabbit holes that I can go down really easily.
And
Um,
well, unfortunately, a lot like comics, I don't really follow as much baseball as I used to. So,
you know, I mean, I get that. Uh, I have always been somebody who reads more baseball than
yeah,
um, watches baseball. I love going to games, but watching on TV, except old Cubs games. I
sure.
mean, what I mean the thing is, I was spoiled for baseball on TV. Arnie Harris and Joe Carneo were the producer and director of Cubs baseball from the very first Cubs broadcast in like 1950
Right.
until like they died in the 2000s,
Yeah.
right? So like they wrote the book on how to film baseball. Unfortunately, not many people copied their book,
No.
and too often when I'm watching games, I'm like, oh, this is a football crew.
Right.
They're showing me stuff that doesn't matter, but is the stuff that they look for in a football game.
Yeah.
you know? Um, but I love reading about baseball and I can go down stat rabbit holes immensely, which is why I need to close the baseball reference page because otherwise we'll be in trouble and we'll go down way too many baseball rabbit holes. Um, but there's so much great baseball storytelling. I mean, I think that's why there are so many comics people that like if they're into sports at all that aren't
Yeah.
wrestling, it's baseball.
A lot of people complain about the pace of baseball, and that's one of the things I love about baseball.
Yeah,
Just,
it's totally one of the things I love about it.
and it's
You
great to
know,
work as a comic artist to have in the background baseball game.
yeah. No, I mean, this is one of those crazy. Hassan Otsmane El How is a huge baseball fan in the UK
Oh
of
yeah,
Indian descent, but it's because he loves having it on the background when he works.
for sure.
Um, so 60s Marvel, 60s and 70s Marvel. That's a good. I love that Ross Andrew came up too. I have only recently started to truly discover Ross Andrew, um, because I got to do a print interview with the eponymous Jason, um, who does all sorts of weird comics. He's a Norwegian cartoonist. This stuff gets translated through Fantagraphics. And apparently in Norway, the first Spider-Man comics were the Ross Andrew ones.
Okay, yeah,
And then so
yeah,
Ross Andrew is his Spider-Man artist because it's like they started with what was coming out when they started translating them, and then like later they brought over the Lee and Ditko and weird numbering and um
yeah. I
but
was lucky. It was kind of when I started reading this when he was the main guy in the book, and I picked up back issues and Marvel Tales too. So uh, my guy was Gil Kane, inked by Ramita. That was like my perfect
okay.
Spider-Man. So
Okay.
and loved Ramita, loved Ditko, and but yeah, all that '70s Bronze Age Spider-Man stuff was just perfect for me. It was just that was comics for
I
me.
mean
Kind of
it's
what Ahoy
some
brings back, that kind of feel, that kind of
it
fun,
does.
So
Only
that's why,
Mark's a better writer than Stan Lee.
yeah,
So's
I will.
Tom. Ahoy brings back and like before I get myself in trouble, Stan Lee is a great pitch man. Stan Lee, in many ways, saved comics. Stan Lee overwrote almost everything he ever touched. The number of times that he was able to like just nail it just isn't that high, you know. But I think he actually did more often with Spider-Man than anything else. Like that first Spider-Man story is 11 perfect pages, and like how crazy is that? It's an 11-page story, not an 8-page story, not a 22-page story.
Yeah,
Because it was in an anthology book. It's an 11-page story.
That's the power of having like weird sort of like lengths for stories. I think is that
Right.
you don't think in the same familiar patterns, or you don't think like, okay, well, I got to have this thing, this sort of turn here.
Right.
yeah. And it's not formulaic, and it's not. We got to pad this out. It's not a financial decision.
Right.
It's a story decision. So
Right. And it established like the entire Spider-Man mythos in 11 pages. Like, I mean, one of the things that I once read is do you remember the like gauntlet thing that they did in I want to say it was the early 2000s where they had like four different writers and they went through all the Spider-Man villains and one of the things that they were doing during that era was they were trying to not use the traditional Spider-Man poses. Trying
oh yeah,
to like create a new set of
right.
Spider-Man can, not necessarily new costume or whatnot, but because like if you go through that 11 pages, you see almost every iconic Spider-Man pose
Sure.
from swinging through the air. There's even a variation on the Spider-Man No More, the back to the
Yeah, yeah,
all in that first 11 pages, which is why Steve Ditko is genius,
yeah.
even if he's a little crazy. Um, but those sometimes go together. Just ask Mark.
Sure. I resemble that remark as well. So
There we
I know
go.
I know about the trying to come up with the iconic poses, because I draw every Wednesday. I draw Spider-Man for social media. It's like
Okay.
Webhead Wednesday. So I usually use that animator's red pencil, and I draw up a whole bunch of these Spider-Man drawings. People seem to like it. So, but
I am going to make certain that I'm following you on social media because that appeals to me. I don't
that's
spend much time on social media, but I could see making a regular thing. About what time do you post these?
9 o'clock in the morning.
Nine
So,
o'clock in the morning. Perfect. If it's
so
a
this is the
specific time, that's even better.
one of the
Oh, I
drawings I
love it.
posted on a Wednesday. So that one's got a lot of Ross Andrew vibe to it, I think. So,
It does. Yeah.
Fantastic.
but but yeah, things that keep me occupied. It's like a warm up drawing in the morning. So, um, Webhead Wednesday.
Webhead. Oh, I am following you, so that's
Is that
good.
why
Now
you
I just
chose
need to
Wednesday
remember
for the
to
What's that?
come
alliteration?
look on Wednesdays.
Is
Yeah,
that why you chose Wednesday to do this for the
I guess
alliteration?
yeah. I had done that, and I saw that it was you think you came up with something, and you realize no, it's a thing. It was already a
Oh,
hashtag.
like
So
Taco Tuesday.
yeah, so I just kind of followed along with that.
Oh,
Uh,
I like this one with the where he's pulling the webs down from the top.
yeah, it was a new one. Yeah, just
That's
the other
cool.
day. Because I'll just start drawing a pose and not knowing what it's going to happen with it, and then just finish it off. And the idea is to try and get the whole body on the page on the So it's yeah, that's the brief. It's got to be Spider-Man. It's got to fit on the page. So and hopefully not
Yeah.
be the same pose I drew last week.
Oh,
But
wait a minute. There's a Spider-Man here that's not red. Does that mean it's not a Webhead Wednesday one?
it might have been a different one, but yeah, I usually try and do just the red ones. I might not have had time to do a new one, so I just found something I had drawn
Okay.
already. So
I mean, it is right between a Joker and a Butcher.
okay, yeah, it's still probably a Wednesday. But yeah,
Oh,
I remember that one. Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen that kick angle where you see more of his heel than the sole of his foot.
again, just a fun exercise. So yeah,
Well, and
Instagram.
and like I mean, it's one of those things that I don't even think those of us who are geeks completely notice um how much certain poses aren't altered that much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of times there's a reason for it too. It's just kind of like
Right.
when you're drawing, I'm trying to change it up so that it's something I haven't seen before, and then you
Hmm.
realize what you haven't seen it before. It's so awkward that it doesn't really make any
Well,
sense.
I mean, as you say that, like I think of the first Hush, where like Jim Lee talked about why on earth would Batman wear boots with flat feet? Of course, he'd have treaded combat boots. I thought before the third time I drew them, before the 30th time I drew them.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like, oh, this is why he doesn't wear sensible shoes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there is a an element of reality to it, but there's also an element of saving yourself from drawing Jack of Hearts, the George Perez character from the
Right.
'70s, with all the playing card stuff all over, and it's like, please don't ask me to ever draw that character. So,
I
but now I know I'm going to
remember
get requests for that at convention.
eh,
So,
I was I like comics across all sorts of comics, and when we were talking about Charles Schultz, we've got a comic strip book club, and we did Charles Schultz and Peanuts twice actually, because the one time ever that we managed to lose an episode before it got put up was was the first time we talked about Peanuts.
oh
But
wow,
in reading all sorts of stuff, uh, Schultz was very hands-on with everything. Like he had a lot of trouble letting go of the characters whatsoever. Um, and apparently when they went to TV, like the biggest challenge was like figuring out what they looked like from different angles
huh, yeah,
because he hadn't had to do that.
right.
He hadn't even realized how few angles he'd used in
That's
in like
true.
20 years of Peanuts at that point until they started trying to figure out, well, what does Charlie Brown look like from slightly above.
Yeah.
No reference.
um, and I think that it, again, like the layman, the person who's just reading it and enjoying the story doesn't doesn't think about what goes into figuring out a different. I mean, I it might have even been you, Mark, and I'm certain that a number of people have talked about um like the writer on a comic is like the writer and kind of the director of a movie, but the artist on a comic is the actors and the costume designer and the lighting director and the set designer and kind of the director and certainly the editor.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like if you compare it to movies, you're wearing all of the hats.
right. The pre-production is almost entirely the writer, with the assist by the editor. The execution of the story is almost entirely the artist.
Yeah. All of the filming and post-production, that's and like like what we were talking about. Oh, and I just discovered that I don't have to feel bad about talking about that corn dog page because you put it up on Instagram yesterday. So it was okay. So we'll get rolling towards a hard out. You're allowed to say that out loud. Um,
I was just trying to be subtle and professional.
I mean, like Terry Moore once held up a post-it note to say that he needed to go to the bathroom. Could we wrap it up? And I'm sitting
Oh
there going,
wow.
Terry, you can just say, hey, we've been talking for almost 3 hours. I'm having a great time, but I need to go. We're not that professional here. Okay. But I was rambling because I'm into all of this stuff. But we'll go to final questions because I forgot what I was about to ask. Um, Mark knows one of these final questions, but I think my other one is new since the last time you were on. Um, this is my fifth year of doing this podcast, and I feel like I've entered the twilight zone. I have surreal experiences on a regular basis that I sit there like if I think 5 years ago you told me that I would take Mark Russell out for pizza, I would have gone, yeah, whatever. But I did.
Chicago deep dish, no less.
We had deep dish pizza
In
together the last
Chicago.
time he was in town. um, but what's even cooler is I've discovered that like that's not unique to me. Whoever I talk to in comics has just a whole list of experiences that like no matter how long they've been doing this, no matter how much acclaim they have stories where like when they think about them, there's an element of they have to pinch themselves to go, wait a minute, did that really happen to me? Whether it's the kid that came up and told them what their work meant to them, or walking through the streets of a European city with Sergio Aragonés late at night. Um, I've heard a couple of different involving Quentin Tarantino.
It's like one
One
of
that involved his mom.
the great advantages of working in comics is the fandom. It's the fact that like
Right.
it's like you get to travel, you get to go to conventions, you meet people who read your work all the time, and and are excited by it. People are genuinely excited about the medium in a way that's not necessarily true of every other written medium, and you get to
Right.
interact with people on a regular basis in a way you don't necessarily get to do if you're writing novels or if you're writing, screenplays and stuff. So it's
Right.
to me, it's just like this is
Well,
a
I think also
amazing scientific data.
the collaborative nature of a lot of comics leans towards it too. You wind up needing to talk to people that you might have gone, oh my God, I get to work with so and so. I used to read so and so. They want to work with me.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have a few of those. It's like I remember reading this like comics by this artist when I was like 12 or 13, and now I'm working with them. Really?
Yeah, I mean, you work with Mike Allred. You still got
Worked
to
with Mike
bring him.
Allred.
You
I
got to
worked
bring
with
him
Shannon
on 22
Wheeler.
panels. We
Yeah,
need
I've
to solve the Paul Pope mystery. So that's my new question is tell me a story. Tell me one of those experiences, those surreal or just wonderful experiences that like you have only had because you chose comics as a major part of your life. And like when you think about it, you go, wow, I really had that happen.
Mark, is that
Oh, okay. Well, I'll start. Yeah, no, for me, one of the greatest experiences I've had working in comics was I got to go to CCXP in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and while there, I got to meet like a Brazilian artist named Ricardo Leite, who he showed me his work, and I'd never heard of him before, but he showed me his work, and it was just like brilliant. It was just like Mobius level detail, and he told these really visual stories that, just were sort of elegant and symbolic. And I was blown away enough by it that I just, invited him to lunch, and we went and had lunch. And he told me about his philosophy of art and also why he thought like Brazilian culture has an inferiority complex, why he feels like even though there's a lot of amazing Brazilian artists and Brazilian culture in general is like really creative and unique, they don't feel like it's worth commemorating. They don't feel like it's worth celebrating unless it's some other country's culture, which is why it's really hard to find Brazilian work in Brazilian museums and stuff. And I just remember it being like one of the best just conversations about art I'd ever had. And it was with a guy I'd never heard of like a day before. And he just had this incredible life story. And it was just like, this is something I never would have happened to me in a million years if I had, retained my day job or if I had gone into virtually any other art form. But there's all these stories out there, all these people who are just doing legendary work, but who maybe you never heard of because they're doing it because they love it, because they're not, at a convention selling, 5,000 prints. They're working and creating masterworks just because they don't know what else to do with themselves. And whenever
Right.
I get a chance to connect with one of those people, it's really humbling.
I'm looking at some of his pages on Instagram. Also, it looks like Diana Schutz is translating something of his, or did In Search of Lost Tintin.
Yeah, I think that's his like sort of newish project.
Yeah. Well, Diana Schutz just recently put up Translation Wrapped, and Ricardo posted that on Instagram a day ago. So
There you go.
so you brought up a story about somebody that we might be able to read in America soon.
Yeah, I highly recommend that. You should.
Yeah, I'm all over it. And that's my favorite kind of story is the one that also makes me want to go learn things. Russ?
well, I'll go the other way with it. I got to work really early on with some real legendary guys in comics. I was brought in to comics by Joe Orlando, who was the
Oh,
vice president at DC. He was my teacher at the School of Visual Arts. Um, and yeah, no, but the one I like to tell is about working with George Perez in
nice.
1990, um, going into 91. I think, yeah, 91. He was doing War of the Gods, which was a big crossover event at DC before they really knew how to do those. So all the other editors had control over their own characters, and it was a nightmare for George. He was one of my favorite uh, uh, writers, well, favorite artists growing up as a kid. So just the fact that I was working with him, this is before the internet, so it's just phone calls. So I had to make phone calls to George Perez while I was working on this comic. He would send me layouts on the boards, rough, like almost stick figures in some spots, and I would try and make it look like what I thought George Perez would draw it like. So it was a really intense and fun project for me. But for George, it was a nightmare because he was also doing Infinity Gauntlet or something like that for Marvel at the same time, one of those other crossovers. So
Oh,
handle at both ends. But
well,
every now and then,
I've always wondered with George Perez what it must be like to be known as the guy who crammed all of the people in every cover.
Yeah, yeah, and every page, like
Right.
his storytelling style. Sometimes when I again the layouts would be like a big panel, and then by the end of it, there were like postage stamp panels at the bottom because he had so much he wanted to get on the page. So,
Right.
um, but there was a page that was specific that I always tell the story about is it's an Aquaman page where Aquaman is fighting some kind of a monster underwater, and the rough pose is Aquaman is throwing a force bolt of water underwater at this monster. And me being a Marvel kid, uh, I didn't really know for a fact, but I had to call him on it and say, "Listen, George, you have Aquaman throwing water, like throwing a force bolt. Isn't that his wife? He can't do that." You know, I know. I watch Super Friends, so I know that much about Aquaman. So, and so I'm talking to George Perez on the phone, like this one of my idols, you know, and he says, "Oh, um, hang on, I'll go check who's who, and I'll call you right back." And he goes to his DC reference stuff, and he calls me back 5 minutes later. He says, "Yeah, he can't do that. He's," and so we started like just mocking Aquaman before it was really, you know, fun to do, or just he has no real frontal attack, and there's nothing he can do from the distance. So I know he can call fish. So why don't I just have him pointing and calling a big column of fish to hit the monster? And George is like, "Hammerhead sharks." And I said, "Yeah, okay, problem solved." And we just laughed. And hammerhead sharks. And then I hung up the phone and realized, again, no internet. Now I got to draw a bunch of hammerhead sharks, and I don't have any reference for uh, the comic artist's, answer for that is silhouetted hammerhead sharks. You know the basic idea of what it looks like. So, you know, it was just one of those moments where you realize, oh my God, I'm drawing a comic book with one of my heroes that from all the stuff I read in the '70s that he drew, and again, just one of the nicest guys in comics too. So I really miss George.
Yeah. I have only ever heard good things about George. All right. My this has been a closing question since the very beginning. So Mark has had to answer it a few times, and I'm going to remind you, as I had to back in, was it December or January that we talked last? You can only get away with using the same book if you didn't pitch it so well that I bought it. So you can't say Elmer again.
Okay. Well, luckily I came prepared.
Okay.
Uh, the
Tell me
one,
something. And I got
okay,
Russ
ask the
hasn't heard
question.
the question yet.
Yes.
Tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but we don't have rules. Preferably storytelling, but again with the rules. But something that you love that not enough other people, particularly around you, have experienced, and you want them to, so you have more people to talk about it with.
Well, this one
Mark
I've
came
chosen.
prepared, so he can go
Yes,
first.
this one I've chose because it's relatively new to me. I think it's relatively new to everybody. It's a collection of news stories by Junji Ito called Statues, and I just found it like utterly page turning and just sort of engrossing. And of course, it's not it's not terribly unique to like Junji Ito. Everybody likes Junji Ito, but I, to me, it's like I enjoy his short work better than I do his long work. I think even that's crazy because I love his long stories, but yeah, I
Well,
would
well, this
recommend
is where I have to say, just because like we're going to plug your Kickstarter again in a minute. One of the cooler Kickstarters out there right now is for a Junji Ito adaptation.
it.
Junji Ito's In Old Records, a horror drama on vinyl.
Interesting.
So Ryan Cady did the scripted adaptation, and rock artist Poppy voices the English version. Um, and he did a story called Old Records that has been turned into a audio drama that for 3 more days you can go order your vinyl to be able to listen to an adaptation of a Junji Ito story. Um, I then need to find the story itself because obviously it's way more fun to listen to something while you're reading it. And I don't know if they're sending you a I don't think they're actually giving well, I mean, one never knows. It would be awesome if like it was a gatefold and they gave you the comic in pages with the record, but they're not clear on whether or not you get the comic. But you do get the adaptation, and that's just awesome. Um, so yeah, I like that call because I like Junji Ito's short stories more than I like. He's got a whole book of cat stories.
Yeah,
Those are
that
fun.
one's really good too.
Yeah.
I think I like statues more.
I haven't read it yet. I need to. I thank you for the recommendation. I'm not certain I'd like he's one of those guys that's been around forever and hit the States somewhat recently. So it seems like there's a new Junji Ito release every day.
Right, they
I mean,
got
it's
quite
not
a
quite
backlog
that
to choose from.
because it's like 20, 30 years of material just flooding the US market because
Right, they got a backlog.
right. All right, Russ.
Let me see. Most of the stuff I like is pretty pop culture relevant and
I mean,
already.
that's allowed.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, again, no rules, but I always bring up to people who are worried about that like Nate Powell said Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. And he's like,
sure.
but you got to remember that I'm an indie comic creator. The people I hang out with don't read X-Men anymore.
Well, I'm trying to think of a couple and without, but maybe, well, they're doing comics. I mean, 70s, again, I'm stuck in the 70s, I guess, but
That's okay.
uh, Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Oh,
So Darren McGavin TV show, and I've done actually it was fun because I got to do a cover and interior illustrations for the first real printing of the novel of
okay.
Jeff Rice's novel of the initial stuff. It was later adapted by Richard Matheson for the first two TV movies, and then there was one season of a show. But recently, the guy's had the rights to it. He's doing a lot of real fun stuff, putting out comics of Kolchak. So
Okay.
I just did. Steve Niles did a one of them. It did Kolchak meets the classic monsters, and I did the cover for him of
Oh,
Kolchak meeting
nice.
Frankenstein. So, but yeah,
Cool, cool.
every now and then I'll find somebody will come up to me at a convention and is just like a rabid Kolchak fan, and it's always kind of fun because it's such a weird little niche, you know. But
Well, and I'll be the first one to say that it's somebody that I have heard of,
yeah,
but I've never watched or read, so it totally goes on my list of okay, I need to learn more.
it's I
So,
mean it's basically most people know him as the old man from A Christmas Story, but it's Darren McGavin, and he is the character. I mean, they've tried to reboot it a couple of times and do different things with it. It's supposed to be Johnny Depp was going to play him in a movie at one point, but without Darren McGavin, it really doesn't make any sense. So he is the character, and yeah, so one of my like most rabid fandoms, if I have one, would be Kolchak. So
okay. I like it. I like it.
I think
So,
I have the book over here too. Actually, so, this was the cover for
oh, nice.
the new printing of the novel. So by Monstrous Books, and this was the Frankenstein cover. So,
Oh, very cool.
but
Very cool. He says on the audio podcast where he's the only one that gets to see it. And Mark, if he was looking up at the right moment. Um, thank you guys so much. The is Forgotten Divine. It looks amazing. Um, I like again, I got to see just the first 7 pages and was became even more excited than I already was, and I didn't really think that that was possible.
Good.
Um,
Well, I hope you like
so
the rest. I'm very
well,
proud of it,
I
and
can't wait for you to slip it to me, Mark.
yeah,
Um,
well, I'll see what I can do.
I will still back it. I mean, I throw money at you all the time.
I appreciate that. That's my favorite reaction, I think, to my presence.
And actually, it's funny. I'm getting that from a lot of my friends that I always give them comps of everything, or like, how can we back it? They're like so excited to back it, and it's like, um, it's kind of really nice. It's a nice feeling. It's like usually, like, you don't have to do that. I always have it for you, and even family. But everybody wants
I
to
mean,
hit
it's
Kickstarter. I
like
think it's kind of exciting. So
on one side, like, don't get me wrong, I love getting stuff for free.
sure.
Um, but on the other side, like, the reason I do this is I love the medium of comics. And both I want more people to love the medium of comics, and I am acutely aware of how many people who work in the medium of comics, like, either need day jobs or spouses who make more money or live on ramen noodles in small studio apartments or whatever because they're compelled to make comics, but there's not really money in comics. So I encourage people to, if they love comics the way I do, find ways to support their local comic artists. And they're not local comic artists. I just said that because of the support your local sheriff, which I've never heard or I've never watched, but like it rolled off the tongue, autistic brain. Um, that sort of thing. So everybody go and click notify me on the Forgotten Divine Kickstarter, which will roll out probably either later this month or early next month, I think is what
I
they
think
were.
early May is when we're
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what they're talking about. Yeah.
Well, but if you want it to be earlier than that, the key, I mean, I'm
right.
certain that there is a notify me threshold that is like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the pot is
please.
hot. Let's go.
Right, please. Yeah, sign up at least for the notifications.
Yeah, it sounds like it's done, and Ahoy is a like solid company that delivers. So this is not one of those throw your money at the
No,
artists and hope
you
you
won't
see
have to wait
something in
for
the
2 or
future.
3 years. It's like
Right,
you said, it's done. It's in the can. It's ready
right,
to be nailed out.
Yeah.
right. No, I actually, and like this hadn't even occurred to me as a thing to do, and I wonder how many people do it. I was seeing a write up for another Kickstarter regular that said, as always, if we fund early, we'll and during the last week of the campaign, so you will get it.
Right. No, it is
Yeah,
forthcoming.
right. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for Mark Russell Braun. I'm going to use that joke one more time. This has been 22 panels, and we will see you after the next page.